Today is an exciting day here at the farm, here at Heritage Farm, because we are seeding the very first seeds to kick off the year. So what are we seeding today? We're seeding onions. Why onions? Because onions as a transplant, which is how we're growing them today, take a long time to germinate. They take a long time to get to a full size. People recommend that your allium should be as thick as a pencil when you put them out into the field. We also need a lot of time for that plant to mature into a great big happy onion. So we want to plant them earlier in the season, April or May or so. And with these transplants being 8 to 10 weeks to get to that nice thick size, we gotta start them now. End of February. So what's going on here? I'm seeding them into these like mini open flats, and we're gonna just seed them in here in these little furrows I made. And when it comes to time to plant, we will just break the plants apart and plant them singly out to give them more space. We have here the Rapid Clip seed sower. It's a dial seed sower. Why is it a dial seed sower? Because as you turn this, you'll see there's a different size opening that will allow seed out of this main container down the spout. So usually I like to use a size that like maybe 3-ish seeds would be able to fit out of, just because as you tap, that'll make sure there's a nice even stream. You want the seeds to like line up one by one so that as they reach the end, you can kind of just let one fall off at a time. And they kind of hit those ridges at the end. That slows them down and makes it a little easier to meter out the flow of the seeds. We do have this available on our online store. And I'm using it here for these onions because I'm just going to be seeding into these furrows. I don't need to be super precise, although this does afford some level of precision when you're seeding into smaller sets. But yeah, I just want to get about 20 or so seeds into each one of these 3 furrows. So you can kind of just tap, kind of get them spread out evenly. I don't need to be super precise about how many, but I am shooting for 20. And so you can kind of see in there, they're pretty close together, which is a-okay for alliums. They're a pretty small transplant, and it's not too big of a deal that they'll be nice and cramped in that nice line there. We'll tease them apart when we plant. Very common question when it comes to seeding in the trays or even seeding out in the garden. How deep do you put them into the soil? The general rule that I was taught was like about 2 to 3 times deeper than the seed is wide. So the smaller the seed, the shallower you want to sow it. Kind of want them, I don't know, maybe 3 millimeters or so deep. And so I'm just gonna fill them in like so, and putting them down too deep, just kind of how deep that furrow was. Make sure you label your plants unless you enjoy a surprise later on in the garden. I wrote these labels up for this onion. We're growing ruby red today, and then also yellow of Parma. Throw a label in there because in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, when these get put into the ground, we want to make sure we're putting the right thing in the right place. Vermiculite is one of those things that comes up in the horticulture space. I like to sprinkle it on top of where I've seeded. Unlike a potting mix or a soil, as it gets wet, it doesn't compact or form like sheets of crust, right? So by putting it on top of the soil here, we're preventing a crust from forming throughout the week or so that it's going to take to get these seeds to germinate. Crust is bad for germination because worst case scenario, the seed won't have enough energy to punch through should that crust be like really hard on top. So this is going to kind of help make it easier on the seed to come out, keep things from getting compacted at the surface, and you run less of a risk of planting that seed too deeply or that seed not emerging. It's important to have the media be moist for the seed to germinate. The media that we're using was already like pre-moistened a little bit, so you didn't have to go too crazy on adding water on top of it. I just like to water to wet down the vermiculite, get the top settled down so it doesn't blow around. Just gentle water. I was using a mist head like I was saying earlier. At this stage, the gentler and smaller the droplet size that's hitting the surface, the less likely you are to get compaction and layers that are harder for the seed to get through on the top. Early on, I'm going to use a humidity dome so that we don't have to water too much before as the seed's germinating. It just makes it a lot easier that we don't have to keep watering and keep adding moisture and potentially keep running the risk of compacting the top or moving a seed around with too strong of a jet of water. The humidity dome kind of reduces the amount of watering we need to do, but still have to top up every now and then, especially on these longer germinating types of plants. Some plants, if you can get them a little bit warmer, it does help with the germination process. So onions are one of those. We're gonna warm them up just a little bit more, just to help speed along the germination. I'm gonna keep my eye on these over the next week or two to check for germination. Top of water is needed. I like to check on them each day. You never know what can happen. You never know if the humidity dome fell off overnight or something like that, or if sun comes out during the day, things can heat up really, really quickly and dry things out. So I like to check on them at this time of the year, probably once a day. The larger the plant, the more water it needs. The hotter the day, the more water the cell will use up. There are times where I'll come in and don't need to water, right? If it's cloudy or cooler or something like that.